Hello, Ginny on the line. In the modern world, women often must decide between motherhood and a career. Everyone is familiar with the fact that a woman's fertility has a specific time frame and that her oocyte quality begins to decline after age 35. So, how should one behave in this circumstance? There is a great solution. A woman can freeze her oocytes at a younger age while continuing to advance her career. Nevertheless, there are many myths around the frozen oocyte topic, which is why I met with two incredible girls today who can debunk it. Let me introduce you to Joy Teddy.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, like I said earlier, my name is Joy.
She is an expert in the international public relations with a passion for strategic messaging and communications. Joy is also concerned with women's health, oocyte donation, and egg preservation. Therefore, she invited Antoinette Taranets to our interview today, a young professional from Toronto, Canada, who is a dedicated advocate for women's health. Greetings, Joy. It's a pleasure to meet you today. I welcome Antoinette and want to ask her a few questions. Please, Antoinette, explain how you came up with the notion to freeze your oocytes. What inspired you to do that?
Yeah, so I can chat a little bit. Probably the first time I learned about freezing my eggs, which is really funny, is from the Mindy Project. So I don't know if you've ever seen that TV show, but it's Mindy Kaling's first ever headlining TV show where she stars and writes in it. And she's she's actually like a gynecologist in the show. And in the final season, she actually starts her own practice, including egg freezing. And she does this whole tour around college campuses. So I think I watched that while I was in college or university, as we call it here in Canada. And I was like, oh, this seems like such a great idea. Why don't more women know about this? Why aren't more women talking about this? And then quite literally within the year, I was actually diagnosed with a uterine condition, which I was born with. So it is called a unicornuate uterus, which means that my uterus didn't fully form when I was in utero. And so I only have the left half of my uterus with one fallopian tube and one ovary that's actually attached. And then my right ovary is kind of just there and no fallopian tube there. So with that, I've always known since I was about 22 that pregnancy would be harder for me already. I'm going to be a high risk pregnancy if I have that opportunity from the get-go, and it might actually be harder for me to get pregnant and stay pregnant. So because of that rolling around in my mind, I think I, more than the average woman, have been thinking about fertility for a very long time. It's something that I've always really wanted. I've always wanted kids, whether that's biologically or adoption. But I really wanted that opportunity to be able to be pregnant myself. And so this felt like an opportunity for me to kind of just guarantee that. Obviously I didn't do it right at 22 because I was figuring out my own stuff. I was seeing someone at the time, and then I wasn't seeing someone, and then COVID happens. And for me now at this stage, I'm about to be 29. I'm not seeing anyone. I'm not in a relationship. And it just felt like this was a really good opportunity for me to take this next step. The other huge thing, which I'm so aware of, is the financial burden of freezing your eggs. And I very fortunately work for a company that actually offers that as a benefit. And so I now can make this decision at age 29 that I know many women have to wait a little bit later to save up for it or whatever that looks like. I can actually make this decision now, and I will not be financially burdened for it. And so that's something I'm so incredibly thankful for, but it kind of aligns with those three main points that I talked about in my TikTok, which is one, financially, I have the means to do it. Two, the fact that I know pregnancy is always already going to be harder for me, and that right ovary might not be able to actually produce eggs naturally, so to speak. So to actually be able to get eggs from that right ovary now is like kind of a blessing. And then third, the fact that I don't currently have a partner. And even if I found the perfect person tomorrow, I'm not ready to have kids for another 3 to 5 years, which means that I would be losing those eggs just naturally. So this is a great way to kind of guarantee roughly 20 eggs, which is about 2 years of periods.
There is an opinion that frozen oocytes are of lower quality than fresh ones. The oocytes and all micromanipulation selection require more attention, while frozen donor eggs are considerably more secure and under control. For this reason, morphological requirements are stricter than those for fresh donor eggs. Eventually, you receive the same number of blastocytes from less frozen donor eggs as fresh donor eggs. Ovogene, for instance, employs AI, an artificial intelligence algorithm that selects the best frozen oocytes based on inputted data and observable criteria. In any case, using frozen oocytes is an excellent option. Have you checked this information before freezing your oocytes?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different for me too, because I am on the younger spectrum of freezing my eggs. They generally, I find most women who do it are typically in that like 33 to 35 age range and are really fighting with their biological clock. Versus for me, I see this as more of an insurance policy. It's a nice to have. It's not a need to have right now, just because obviously I think even if, like with this, having these frozen eggs, I would actually choose to still try to get pregnant. I hate the word naturally because I don't even think, like it's beautiful however you get pregnant, but in that way, like through sex, I would probably try that first and then use these frozen eggs as like my insurance policy of if that's not working, then have this as an opportunity because they're younger, they are typically healthier, etc. That being said, I have read predominantly research, not necessarily about frozen versus fresh, but more about like frozen embryos have a better chance versus just frozen eggs. That being said, I don't have a partner right now, and I don't necessarily want to use donor sperm at this point in time because I don't know what my future holds. So I feel like that's more of the information that I've read is more about like frozen embryos have the best chances of taking. But the number one thing they say about frozen eggs and their viability is the age of the person at the time of freezing them. So the fact that I'm freezing them at age 29 actually gives me the best chance for those eggs to take versus, if I did wait another 5 years, just because the quality of eggs, you only have a limited supply, you're born with them. And, typically as you get through life, it's not necessarily the best eggs that are lasting. So anyway, that's more of the information that I've been like focused on versus like, I'm also not doing this to donate to someone. Like these are my eggs. These will be my eggs. So it is also just, I think, a different perspective there.
What advice would you provide to ladies considering oocyte freezing but have not decided yet?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power. So I would encourage every young woman, and especially I think because my story is so specific, where I learned that I would potentially have infertility at age 22. Not most women know that about their bodies until they start trying. So the fact that I had information really helped me make the decision so much younger than I think a lot of other women would. So I would always encourage women, go see a gynecologist, get your information. There are blood tests you can do to even just know your health. And I've had quite a few friends now go through this process. I have a friend who found out recently that, her supply isn't as strong as someone at our age should be. And so that's why she's freezing her eggs. I have another friend who's older and she chose to freeze her eggs because she doesn't have a partner and she really wants kids. I have another friend who isn't sure if she wants children, but because of that, wants to make sure she'll have that opportunity to do so if she does change her mind in the future. So I really see, like, again, knowledge is power, information is power. Knowing about your body is so important. So even if you're not ready to make the decision tomorrow to do it, I think arming yourself with the information necessary to make that best decision for you is so important. And so I would recommend for any young woman to start doing the research, start talking to your doctor, and first and foremost, learning about your specific body because everyone's body is different. So I definitely recommend like empower yourself, seek it out, and then you can make the full decision for yourself.
Basically, what I wanted to ask, thank you for waiting, is so you found out at 22 and you did it at 29. So what was the biggest challenge that delayed that decision? Right. So I want to just point this out because looking through social media, a lot of people there's to freezing your oocytes, right? And then some people have different reasons why they delayed that. So what was yours?
Mm-hmm. So for me, I think it was just because I was so young when I found out. Honestly, I wasn't ready to have kids at that moment anyway. So for me, it was like, okay, I have time. I don't need to make this decision right now. And it's not to say that I can't still get pregnant through sexual intercourse or, like that I won't be able to have a successful pregnancy. It's just that I quite literally will not know until I try. And because at that time I had a partner, I thought I was going to potentially marry that person. I wasn't in a rush to like explore that opportunity. It wasn't until as I got older and things weren't necessarily progressing, I was having great career progression, but not necessarily a lot of progression in love and life, that I was like, you know what, now is the time. And because I think I'm at a stage where it's also covered financially for me, it kind of feels like, oh, why wouldn't I do this right now? Again, like it is definitely a very privileged position to be in where I can make this decision because it's financially covered and I can do it now at still a fairly young age. So I think that was honestly the biggest like factor for me, was I wasn't in a rush until all of a sudden you're in the rush and you're like, oh, this is coming faster. And I didn't see any like opportunity for a partner that I was like, oh, okay, I think this is time for me to focus on this.
I sincerely appreciate you conducting this interview. We learned today about a modern woman's stance that, owing to frozen oocytes, she may establish a career and take care of herself. We refuted misconceptions and the concept that fresh oocytes are preferable to frozen ones. I believe that many women will find inspiration in our discussion.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's something I'm very passionate about. So I'm very happy to be open about it because obviously it's a huge part of my story and hopefully will be part of my story in the future. Will be a successful pregnancy. We'll see. But yeah, very happy to chat about it. And if you do have any other questions, you can always send them via email and I'm happy to stay connected.